2025, Russia has suffered over 790,000 casualties killed and wounded combined. By November 2025, Russia was losing an average of 1,033 soldiers every single day. Russia has lost over 11,000 tanks, nearly 24,000 armored vehicles, and more than 35,000 artillery systems. Russia's currency has lost over half its value against the dollar and euro. Russian oil, which funds the entire war effort, is selling at $56 to $57 per barrel due to sanctions far below international prices. It might sound surprising to some of you, especially given the daily headlines about Russian advances. But when you look beneath the surface at the numbers, the economics, and the military realities, a very different picture emerges. Why many military analysts believe Russia is on an unsustainable path. As of April 2025, Russia has suffered over 790,000 casualties. To put that in perspective, that's nearly twice the entire active-duty military Russia had before the war started. Russia has lost more soldiers in 3 years than they had in their entire professional army at the beginning of this conflict. By November 2025, according to Ukrainian military estimates, Russia was losing an average of 1,033 soldiers every single day. That's the equivalent of losing a battalion every single day. In a single month, that's over 30,000 casualties. In a year, that's over 370,000 people. Now, some of you might be thinking, Russia has a huge population. They can absorb these losses. And yes, Russia has about 144 million people, but no modern military force has ever sustained losses at this rate and continued functioning effectively. During the Soviet-Afghan War, which lasted nearly 10 years from 1979 to 1989, the Soviet Union lost approximately 15,000 soldiers. That war became so unpopular and so draining that it contributed to the collapse of the Soviet Union itself. In 3 years in Ukraine, Russia has already lost more than 50 times that number in killed and wounded combined. We're not talking about World War II era mass mobilization, where entire societies were restructured for total war. This is 2025, and modern wars are won by technology, training, logistics, and morale, not just throwing bodies at the problem. The human cost is staggering, but it's also creating a military effectiveness crisis that Russia simply cannot solve. Every soldier lost is not just a military loss. It's an economic loss, a demographic loss, and a loss of future productive capacity. The long-term damage to Russian society from these losses will be felt for generations. The documented equipment losses are absolutely staggering. According to open-source intelligence tracking from Oryx and other military analysts, Russia has lost over 11,000 tanks, nearly 24,000 armored vehicles, and more than 35,000 artillery systems. These aren't Ukrainian propaganda numbers. These are confirmed losses with photographic or video evidence. Even U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency estimates, which tend to be significantly more conservative, confirm Russia has lost over 10,000 ground combat vehicles, including at least 3,000 tanks. The Pentagon has stated that Russia has lost approximately 90% of the combat power of the army it had at the beginning of the war. Russia isn't building new tanks and armored vehicles from scratch at anywhere near the rate they're losing them. What they're doing is pulling Soviet-era equipment out of long-term storage, refurbishing it, and sending it to the front. But those storage depots are running dry, and the evidence for this is overwhelming. Satellite imagery analysis conducted by independent researchers has shown that Russia's tank storage facilities across the country are now 70 to 80% empty compared to before the war. You can literally see it from space. Vast fields that were once packed with hundreds of stored tanks are now mostly bare. And the tanks they are bringing out now are progressively older and less capable models. We're seeing T-55s from the 1950s and early T-62s from the 1960s being deployed to frontline units. These aren't modern fighting vehicles capable of standing up to contemporary anti-tank weapons. They're essentially museum pieces being sent into combat against modern Western weapon systems like Javelin missiles, NLAW anti-tank weapons, and now even Abrams and Leopard tanks. To give you an idea of how outmatched this equipment is, A T-55 tank has armor that can be penetrated by weapons that were considered standard infantry equipment by the 1980s. Sending them against modern Ukrainian forces equipped with 21st century weapons is essentially sending soldiers to their deaths in metal coffins. Even if Russia wanted to build new equipment from scratch, their industrial capacity is severely limited by sanctions. They can't get the microchips, the advanced components, the precision machinery, the sophisticated materials needed for modern weapon systems. Western sanctions have cut off access to everything from ball bearings to targeting computers. Reports from inside Russia indicate that tank production facilities are cannibalizing civilian equipment to get the components they need. They're pulling chips out of washing machines and refrigerators to put into military equipment. This isn't a sustainable industrial strategy. It's desperation. The same story applies to artillery. Russia is burning through artillery barrels at a rate that far exceeds their ability to produce new ones. Artillery barrels wear out after firing a certain number of rounds. Russia has been firing so many artillery rounds that they're wearing out barrels faster than they can be replaced. Aircraft losses tell a similar story. Russia has lost dozens of aircraft, including advanced jets like the Su-34 and Su-35. Each of these aircraft costs tens of millions of dollars and takes years to build. Russia's aircraft production before the war was maybe a dozen or two per year. They're losing aircraft faster than they can replace them, and the expertise to fly them is even harder to replace than the planes themselves. You'll often see headlines about Russia capturing another village, pushing forward a few kilometers, or taking some strategic position. Maps show Russian-controlled territory expanding. So, how can I say Russia is losing when they're still advancing? This is what military analysts call a Pyrrhic victory, winning battles at such a high cost that you're actually losing the war. The term comes from King Pyrrhus of Epirus, who won battles against Rome, but at such devastating cost that he remarked, "Another such victory, and I shall be lost." Russia would run out of soldiers, equipment, and money long before reaching that number.
The mathematics of the situation are inexorable. Whether that happens in 2026 or 2027 or later, the trajectory is clear. Russia's war in Ukraine is heading toward failure. Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis helpful, please like and subscribe, and drop a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this situation. Do you think Russia can turn this around? Or is collapse inevitable? Let me know what you think. See you in the next video.